the relationship between Sports and Leisure Management Group and Sports and Leisure Management Limited. Are they two different companies or are they the same company? Because I just wanted clarity there, and then I'll ask a follow-up question.
They are essentially the same company. Sports and Leisure Management Limited is the company which has the contract with London Borough of Southwark. We then have 3 subsidiary companies which deliver the services within the centres. We have a company which operates the food and beverage services, a company that operates the fitness and health services, and a company that operates the what we call community leisure services, which is basically sports halls, swimming pools.
Okay, that's helpful, because I was reading through Castleview Venture Limited and annual report, which was filed at the back end of last year annually, and it mentions that Sports and Leisure Management Group had an increase of 19.5% in turnover to the tune of about £227 million. And given that they're the ultimate owner, I was wondering if you had any conversations with the ultimate owner, which has made a significant amount of money through its contracts across the country, about getting this emergency fund, which you have received from Southwark Council. Why couldn't Castleview Ventures Limited bail you out, as it were?
Yes, I have had conversations. I do think it's worth saying the situation we have in Southwark is the same situation we've got in the other 61 boroughs where we operate. The company has actually incurred significant losses since March. Losses are running at round about £3 million a month at the moment. Clearly, the arrangement we're looking to move into in Southwark will change that situation in Southwark. We've got an awful lot of other situations to negotiate. I think all I can say is I have had those conversations, and our ultimate shareholder feels he's doing everything he can. I can understand why you feel differently.
Okay,
no,
Jason.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not completely satisfied with the answer, though, because looking at the balance sheet even a bit further, cash in bank, you have circa £10 million. I'm hearing what you're saying, that you're losing close to £3 million each month since lockdown, which has been 3 months, but you also have a significant facility to draw down on debt if you want to. So I'm just curious as to why Southwark Council giving you money was the last solution. It doesn't seem to me as if it was the final solution. It seems like there were other opportunities to get money.
We feel that we've looked at those opportunities. I mean, those cash balances have actually been significantly used up over the last few months. We've actually taken advantage of a government guaranteed loan, which has just been put in place, and finances for the group right at the moment are very tight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got Helen next, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think this is a question for the 2 Rebeccas, I think, and it's about the kind of short to medium term financial package that is being negotiated at the moment to cover, I think, from July to March 2021. So we know from the report that the council has already supported SLM to the tune of 1.2 million due to the initial phase when everything's been shut. But I am, interested in whether we can get any further detail about how much we estimate the kind of next stage of the arrangement to be. So I know in the report it says that it will be capped. It says that the council will not receive a management fee. So, I mean, we understand that already, but that obviously will have an impact on the council's income. And whilst SLM are in financial difficulties, the council is in extreme financial difficulties due to COVID. And it also says the council will be paying for a proportion of the staff, but it doesn't say kind of what proportion. So it feels like there's quite a lot of kind of leeway, if you like, in the next stage in terms of how much financial support is offered to SLM? And I know this is clearly it's in negotiation at the moment, but are you able to give us a sense of kind of ballpark, like the general kind of realm that we're talking about? And I suppose following on from that, what conversations are also happening at I guess both, well, London councils, but actually kind of local authorities across the board, as you said, are facing the same issues with their leisure providers. What discussions are happening with central government about the future of leisure services, and how, if councils are essentially kind of taking on the financial burden now in order to keep leisure centres open due to COVID and during this next period, what response has there been from central government to the issues that the sector is facing?
Thanks, Helen. So on your first question, I think if we're going to have any conversations about money, we're going to have to do it in closed session, and there's still very little that we're going to be able to say about it. But what I do wonder if it's useful, and I'm going to have to ask Rebecca to do it more succinctly, is just explain how the current contract works with the management fee, so it's really clear about how the contract exists, because it's not necessarily like a normal contract where we would pay for a service. But just quickly, Helen, on your other point, there have been lots of conversations that we've been having with other local authorities about what they've been seeing. So both Rebecca and myself have been talking to, well, my counterparts and Rebecca's counterparts in other boroughs to see how they're managing this process. I think Southwark is quite unique because of free swim and gym, and it adds an extra layer of complexity to kind of how our leisure contract operates. And on your point about central government, you will have seen Peter's comments as chair of London Councils calling on government to do more about this, and saying that the leisure centre really, the leisure centre and therefore local councils need the support to be bailed out. And I'm talking to kind of our teams internally about how we can send some further letters and put some further pressure on government to set out the situation that we're in, and that there really is a need for the leisure sector and therefore local councils to be supported through this. I think what we've seen from COVID-19 is that health, people's individual health is really, really important to how severely they will be impacted by COVID-19, and we need to be doing everything we can to provide services that allow people to stay healthy. But Rebecca, do you want to just go through the contract bit as much as we can?
Very simply, I mean, in pre-2016, we paid an operator to run our leisure centres. And in 2016, we stopped paying an operator and we got paid. So we received a management fee. So we enter COVID, unfortunately, with disappointment, because the leisure contract had promised to be lucrative for the local authority. But so we've had to accept, and policy guidance suggested with the COVID emergency that a waiver of management fee was a reasonable approach, and that was going on across the country. But when it comes to the negotiations over the next period and those details, I mean, we really aren't in a position to talk about anything. Certainly we wouldn't be able to do in open session, but I don't even have the detail. But one thing I will be able to say is that we will only be covering costs, the actual costs. And that will be scrutinised, monitored, open book accounted. We will be meeting to, look at figures on a very regular basis. And everyone active know this and are prepared to cooperate with us on this, because we want to move forward in the spirit of partnership. We need everyone active to maximise the income coming in. So we need memberships. We need them to be able to resurrect the direct debits, get people into the centres using them, and that will mean that the cost will be minimised, because we can look at the difference between the income and expenditure. The exact mechanism for that we need to discuss, and that's all under discussion at the moment. And I think Rebecca's already covered, if everyone active, or if there is a successful lobby, and there's a lot of lobbying going on, if there's any successful government grants, then we will be in discussion with everyone active about where that money goes as well. So I think between us, we really understand the need to keep the costs as low as possible. But unfortunately, we're in a really difficult position, not just us, everyone in the country is in a really difficult position about valuing leisure provision for the benefit of residents, and actually having few options in terms of how we take this forward if we want to keep leisure centres open, and we want people to be able to enjoy them for the benefit of their health and well-being. And certainly this feels like the quickest and cheapest way to open leisure centres.
Okay, thank you. I've got Peter next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to get a little bit more clarity in the as to how we're going to ensure that money kind of is spent as it should be going forward, because we're clearly talking huge sums here, even if we can't get to all of the specifics during negotiations. So David, I think you mentioned that there wouldn't be dividends to Martin during this period, but is that saying that there won't be dividends from SLM Limited, which is the entity that Southwark has a contract with, to other parts of the group?
Absolutely, it is, yes. There's no doubt SLM isn't going to be in a position to pay a dividend in the foreseeable future.
Okay, and so just digging a tiny bit further than that, will presumably SLM will incur like kind of intragroup or take part in intragroup transactions or similar? I'm just a bit concerned of like, okay, yeah, even if we're doing open book, are there like kind of management fees that go to other parts of the group? And just to be kind of plain with it, my concern is that SLM Limited isn't an asset locked company. Great, there's a commitment on dividends, but it'd be good to be clear that kind of money's not leaking out otherwise in ways that that might end up with Southwark incurring more costs.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely open, yes, there are management charges that SLM make to other group companies that total just over £50,000 a month. That is not going to feature in the account for Southwark. That's a cost that is just going to be a head office cost that Southwark won't be asked to contribute to. The open book arrangement that we're talking about is going to be absolutely that, and auditors from London Borough of Southwark are going to, I'm sure, be looking at every transaction very carefully.
Peter, if I can just add to that as well, I just kind of reiterate what Rebecca Towers was saying, that the conditions that we want to put around this are that there has to be an open book process that allows us to really understand how every single penny is being spent. It is one of our council ways of operating that we spend every penny as if it's our own. We are really serious about this when we say that we are going to provide any financial support to everyone active, that it has to be as if I was spending my own money to keep our leisure centres open. We're obviously also doing it on a month-by-month basis, so that we can adjust the amount of money if we need to on a month-by-month basis, and any income that comes in will then obviously be offset against the amount of money that we will then be giving everyone active to continue running leisure centres as well.
Okay.
Chair.
Yeah. Who's that?
Chair. It's Jason here.
Sorry,
quick
Jason.
one. I think David's been quite categoric in saying that there will be no dividend payers for the foreseeable future. Can there be a point made on this that if there is a dividend payment made over the next financial year, that there can be some sort of clawback mechanism? Because I think it wouldn't be entirely fair if we've been told that in the foreseeable future there will be no dividend payments, and indeed we see in the accounts next year there has been.
Did you hear the question, David?
I did, yes. That hasn't been mentioned in the negotiations so far. It's not something I would have strong objections to, but all I can say is it needs to be fed into the negotiations through the channels that we're currently talking in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jason.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can I just come back to the point about income and usage again, because as part of these the ongoing review of the service, if I can put it that way, before you took the active Southwark report to Cabinet last year, there was an item from the Leisure Scrutiny Commission, which I think Councillor Hargrove headed up at the time, and that looked at free swim and gym from the angle of particular target groups which meant being as represented as well as they could be within the provision of free swim and gym. I'm thinking, particularly population demographics of low-income families and people with ill health, etc. So I'd be interested to know if you'd be looking at that as part of the process. And while Paul's here, I'll be wondering if he'd like to comment on those type of health-related services too. So to you first, Rebecca. Councillor Rebecca Laurie.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, so when I kind of referred in my introduction to the fact that these conversations have been going on pre-COVID, this informed some of the conversations that we were having about who was using our service and whether it was achieving the intended policy ambitions that we had when we talked about free swim and gym in the first place. So we've been having these conversations for a long time. I think, therefore, the position that we're going to be in over the summer, where officers are going to look at the range of options of how we deliver leisure services in the future, means that we can then start specifically looking at where we haven't got target groups using our services in the way that we want to, and build that into any new future contract that we have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Paul, did you want to comment at all at this stage?
The exercise and referral scheme that's delivered as part of the contract is subcontracted down to another organisation called Everyone Health. That service has continued to be run over the COVID-19 lockdown period remotely online. Prior to that, the outcomes and the operations of that service were very strong. It met many of the KPIs around engagement of particular groups, BME groups, and most of the services that are run out of the leisure centres in the middle of the borough, the Peckhams and the Camberwell leisure centres. So the service has been very strong, and it always has been, and it was transferred over from the previous operator, Fusion, and many of the staff that work on that scheme worked on the previous contract as well. So that service has been quite steady and has managed to deliver some kind of service during lockdown as well.
And in terms of the reach to the target groups, have you any comment on that at all?
The reach to the target group is excellent, yeah. So the BME groups that are targeted by the service has always had a stronger than the borough average kind of uptake, particularly around engaging with female people and referrals from GPs as well. So as soon as people get referred from GPs into that service, the uptake is always quite strong, because their GPs referred them, and they go on to join the leisure centre after them. There's a high uptake of people that go on from being completely inactive to then joining the leisure centre and becoming a paid for direct debit member, which then generates income for the leisure contract. So that service contributes towards the wider leisure management contract.
Good, excellent. No, well, I'm sure whatever barriers there may be, the Councillor Lurie and Rebecca Towers will take that on board. Sue, can I bring you in at this stage? I'm conscious you haven't made a comment yet, so you might wish to say something at this point.
I just feel that it is terribly, terribly important for everyone active to carry on as they are. They encourage us, they motivate us, and we need positives in our life at the moment, without a doubt. Because of the COVID, we need something to aim towards, and I think everyone active are the people to do it. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's pretty loud and clear. Is there any other member that wishes to ask a question at this point? Except for Councillor Lamb, obviously. But, is there anybody else that wants to ask a question? Okay, Councillor Lamb, go on. I'll let you
do. Thank you. It's just a quick one, Chair. I just want to know whether if we have any demographic breakdown of the survey users, and also whether those who are accessing the services at the moment, whether they have alternatives, especially if they can afford to pay for it. Why should we, Southwark Council, has to pay for it? I mean, that's the basis of my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Sunny. So I think there are probably two things there. The bit about demographics, obviously, as Ian mentioned, there's the report that we took to Barry's Scrutiny Committee last year that has, from memory, has quite a lot of information in it about service users. We probably have more up-to-date information that we can share with the committee afterwards. In terms of your second question, yes, there are people that use free swim and gym who can pay to use our leisure centres. I'm pretty sure that the majority of us on this call are those people. But the whole point of us introducing a free swim and gym service was about universality and having a free service that didn't exclude anybody across the whole of the borough. I think it plays to the conversation we were just having about specifically targeting those individuals that we want to take up the service. The referral work that Paul refers to works very well, but general access into the service could be better. So one of the reasons we looked at free swimming lessons is because a huge group of the target market that we want to use our leisure centres don't know how to swim. So by being able to offer them free swimming lessons, you're therefore automatically opening the leisure market up to them and encouraging those people into the service. The same with flexibility. You know, it might be actually that Friday, Saturday, Sundays are not the time that works for you because of your other commitments. So what other services can we provide, both swimming and gym related, that means that it fits around your life and we can get those groups who are harder to reach or have other responsibilities using the service in the same way?
Perhaps, value for money aspect needs to be looked at as part of the overall review later on.
Yeah, of
personally,
course.
I'm not convinced that it should continue, in my opinion.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
My pleasure. I've got Victoria now, please.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I think I want to go back to my original question. I think before this meeting, I asked for additional information. I think the additional information we got, I think, was quite limited because I wanted to see year on year what were the original contract performance targets and outcomes, so then we can do a genuine comparison about how the contract's been delivered up to lockdown in March 2020. Because for me, I can get a sense of what was the original contract targets for all the different specific groups, how has SLM delivered to date, and what are some of the key issues they found? Because many people have said, you know, council members and other people have said, well, the contract hasn't been delivered for some areas, other specific groups, hard to reach groups haven't engaged as well. I wanted to find the rationale and the reasons behind that. And I think the limited data we've got today didn't really answer that. I mean, yes, you can say year on year, BAME in particular geographic groups, but for me, what were the original figures in the contract so we can do a genuine comparison?
Okay, who would like to take that one on board? Which Rebecca this time?
I might pass that on to Rebecca Towers.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to have to apologise, Councillor, for not providing the full set of information. I'm sorry about that because I see that would have been really useful. I can't get that right now, but I mean I'm in my mind I've got certainly an increase on the target. I don't know if Mark has any information about this, but I don't want to put him on the spot. But certainly most priority groups, except for low income, overachieved against target. But we can certainly provide more detail outside of the meeting. But Mark, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any information on that to hand?
I do, yes. I've got figures through memberships and BAME from when the contract first started in 2016 to to the end of Q3 2020, and all areas have significantly improved in usage. For example, attendance in 2016-17 generally was 1.2, just over 1.24 million. End of 2019, it was 2.35 million. You know, females, 2016-17, 570,000. 2018-19, 955,000.
Mark, sorry,
yes.
do you have actual any percentages of increase against original target though?
Can I just ask a supplementary, a quick question, Chair, please?
Yes.
I think thanks for that, Mark. But I think what I really wanted was to find out in terms of the original contract, which was 7 years, normal contracts like that, you've got year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. We're in year 4 now. I want to be able to see what was the original performance targets and outcomes for each specific area. For example, if BAME, you said year on year BAME usage would increase by 4 or 5%, then I'd have more realistic able to comparison and say, okay, this is what you said you do year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 in each specific area. How have you performed to date? And for me, because there's no point you giving me percentages at 94,000 or whatever, that doesn't mean anything to me until I can see if you said in year 4 BAME usage would be 150,000 or it could be 25%, and then I can do a proper genuine comparison. Is that clear?
It is, yes. We complete an annual report at the end of every year for every KPI, key performance indicator, listed in the contract, and they should be available because we've provided those to the local authority. 1920's report is not complete because Q4 we had to furlough majority of the colleagues by 6 colleagues. So when the leisure centres do reopen, we can complete prior year's report, but apart from that, you do have all that information to hand.
Okay, thank
you.
We
can. I'm presuming, Rebecca, we can provide that information.
We can.
Yes.
We can, and we will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it would be useful to provide whatever information we can get together for the committee. And I know that Helen wanted to come in terms of where we go from here. Helen, please.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, just in terms of long-term options, because I'm conscious we haven't discussed that much today. And I know that there's going to be a report to Cabinet in September. Is that correct? It'd be useful to know how OSC can play a useful role in that process, kind of going forward. And a more specific question, I suppose, on the insourcing option. I'm sure you're looking at all kinds of different ways of trying to establish a really good and viable service going forward. I was just wondering whether there was discussions going on with other local councils about something like a charitable trust that could be set up jointly that might be more financially efficient than doing it on our own, or even looking at cooperative models of kind of ownership and participating in our leisure centres in a different way. I don't know if you can say anything more about kind of, there's insourcing and then there's under that there are different ways of doing it.
Yeah, and Helen, you've touched on the issue really, which is that there are so many different ways that we could look to do something different with this service. We are definitely looking at a trust model. We will be looking at us straightforward in-housing the service. We will be looking at potential options around a re-procurement in some way, whether that's on our own, with other boroughs, in some other format. We genuinely want to look at a huge range of options that allows us to come up with the best solution for how we run our service going forward. Rebecca, I don't know if you want to add anything specifically on that bit, and then I'll come back to the other bit of Helen's question.
Yes, I mean, we are in regular communication with our neighbouring boroughs, and we're sharing ideas and information, so I think there's some really interesting things that we could do. It's just about the time that it takes to explore the various options. So there'll be a set of information coming forward in September, and then there may need to be further information supplied after that because of the intricacies and the detail to work out the various options. So, but it's I mean, everything, like Rebecca says, everything's on the table, and we're really interested in working with our neighbours and other London boroughs. So
and then Helen, in terms of the second part of your question, so we are really keen to get this report to Cabinet in September because we need as long a time as possible to be able to take forward whatever option we are going to do, if we want to be in a position for that to happen from the new financial year. Based on, I will defer to the chair at this point as to when an OSC meeting might be in September, or whether there is a need to schedule one around when Cabinet is happening. That means you would be able to feed into kind of initial thinking, or whether we want to do it in the way we have done now, which is that we refer ourselves back to scrutiny after the decision's been taken. And it might be a purely logistical issue based on when we're going to be able to have a report done in the first place, to be honest, and whether we can, when we're able to share it.
Yes, all the great constitutional minds of Southwark Council have been devoted to this very question, and I wish I could answer it at this moment in time, but we are scheduled to have a meeting come the end of September. I'll have to liaise obviously with the appropriate officers and see how we can program it so that it fits together. And hopefully members will get the information they need and be able to raise all the questions and issues that they want to that can feed into your report, Rebecca. I mean, I don't think we need to necessarily have another meeting just to do that. People can feed that into you directly if they so wish.
Yeah.
But certainly we'd all appreciate some sort of feedback at an appropriate point.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great, fantastic. Sue wants to come back in. Sue, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to go back to the value for money. I was here with Fusion before Everyone Active came in, and I do have the option to have a free membership, but because of the excellent programme that Everyone Active supply, I decided to pay a monthly fee because it simply includes everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think I've covered everybody that wanted to speak. Sonny, have you raised another question? Or was that dealt with? Has that been dealt with? Oh, he's okay. All right, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that comment. Okay, so I think we've all about done then, if that's everybody's happy with where we got to so far. So can I thank everybody for coming along this evening, especially David and your colleagues for coming along tonight. We appreciate your response to members' questions, and to Paul and Sue for coming along representing their different communities, and of course to the two Rebeccas who make an excellent team. So
thanks, Ian.
Okay, so we come to the end of our meeting this evening. So thank you all once again, and that no doubt I'll see you in another Teams or Zoom meeting. So thanks again and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Bye.